I stood by the marble bar, my hands wrapped around a glass of amber liquid, the edges of it sweating like my nerves. The room was buzzing with laughter, music, and polite chatter, but all I could hear was the hollow echo of my own heartbeat. I had never felt more invisible, or more aware of every small, deliberate movement of the woman I had once thought I knew. Her name was Emily, my wife. And tonight, at her boss's lavish downtown penthouse party, she wasn't just ignoring me. She was deliberately, painfully, obliterating my presence. She drifted across the room in a dress that shimmered like liquid silver, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear, leaning closer to men whose hands lingered on her back a second too long. My stomach twisted every time she smiled at them, not me. My chest burned, not from jealousy, but from the slow, creeping realization that I was losing her, piece by piece, right here in front of everyone I knew. I sipped my drink, tasting nothing but bitterness and humiliation, and tried to ground myself. I thought about leaving. I almost did. But something in me, anger, pride, a stubborn hope I couldn't name, held me there. I wasn't going to vanish quietly. Not tonight. I watched as Emily laughed at something her boss, Mr. Langston, said. Then her hand brushed against his arm. Just a touch, fleeting, but the way she leaned in, her voice soft and intimate, made my stomach flip. It wasn't the casual friendliness I had trusted her to have. It was too close, too familiar. I took a deep breath and tried to remind myself. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm seeing what I don't want to see. But then I noticed the small things. How she avoided my eyes, how she touched his hand like it was hers to hold, how she never introduced me properly to anyone. Every moment chipped away at my composure, and by the time the string quartet began a soft, jazzy rendition of Summertime, I felt my last shred of patience snap. I turned toward the other side of the room and saw her husband, or rather Mr. Langston's wife, Margaret. A poised woman in her early 40s, elegant but with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. I'd only spoken to her a handful of times before, always in passing pleasantries. Tonight, she was standing alone near the grand piano, a glass of champagne in her hand, watching Emily with a quiet intensity. And then an idea, dangerous and impulsive, took root. I approached her slowly. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" asked, keeping my voice low, controlled. Margaret looked at me for a long moment, her eyes narrowing slightly, then nodded. "Of course." I leaned close enough for her to hear me over the music. "I think you should know. Your husband, he's been very close to my wife tonight. Too close." Her expression didn't change, but there was a flash of something. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. "I suspected," she said softly. My throat tightened. "I want you to say something. To toast to the truth." She blinked, clearly startled. "The truth?" "Yes. The right moment. Let everyone hear it. Let her know she can't hide it." Margaret studied me, and I saw her weighing the options. Then finally she smiled, a small, knowing smile, and nodded. "All right. I'll do it." The night wore on, the party reaching a crescendo of laughter, clinking glasses, and forced merriment. Emily continued her dance of flirtation and avoidance, unaware of the plan that was unfolding. I stayed in the shadows, keeping my distance, my heart pounding with anticipation and dread. Finally the moment came. Margaret raised her glass, and the room slowly hushed, sensing a toast was coming. All eyes turned to her. My chest tightened so much it hurt to breathe. She began in a smooth, light voice. "I want to make a toast tonight, not just to the successes we celebrate, but to honesty." Her gaze drifted past me, locking on Emily. The room shifted uncomfortably as she continued. "Sometimes the truth is the hardest thing to face," she said, her voice calm, almost clinical. "And sometimes the people we think we know best are hiding things we never expected." A ripple of confusion ran through the crowd. Emily stiffened, her smile faltering, her eyes searching the room for some sign that this was a joke. Margaret raised her glass higher. "I admire courage, even when it's uncomfortable. So here's to facing the truth, even when it burns, even when it hurts, and even when it comes at a cost." The room was silent. Emily's face went pale, and she finally turned toward me. Our eyes met, and in that instant, every lie, every hidden glance, every whispered conversation I had feared came rushing back in a torrent of clarity. She opened her mouth and I saw it. The panic, the guilt, the recognition that the game was over. She had nowhere to hide. I felt a mixture of triumph and heartbreak. I had known for weeks, maybe months, that something had shifted between us, but hearing it out loud, watching it unfold in front of everyone we knew, it was worse than I could have imagined. Emily's lips trembled, but no sound came out. She reached for me, perhaps to explain, to plead, but I stepped back. The warmth that once drew me to her had turned to ice. Margaret finished her toast with a gentle clink of her glass. "To truth," she said again, softer this time, almost pitying. The crowd, sensing the tension, murmured awkwardly. Conversations resumed, but the atmosphere had changed. Emily avoided me for the rest of the night, slipping through the crowd like a shadow, leaving me with the bitter taste of reality. We left the party in silence. The city lights flickered below us as the cab drove through empty streets, and I could feel Emily's presence next to me but not with me. "Do you want to talk?" she asked finally, her voice small, uncertain. I shook my head. "No, not tonight. Not ever, maybe." She looked away, tears brimming in her eyes. I didn't reach for her hand. I didn't want to. The trust we had built, the life we had imagined together, had cracked beyond repair. In the days that followed, I sifted through memories with a meticulous, painful clarity. Every moment that once seemed innocent now bore the shadow of betrayal. I replayed conversations, reread messages, noticed the subtle signs I had ignored or dismissed. The pain was sharp, but beneath it, a cold resolve took root. Emily tried to apologize, to explain, to reason. I listened, sometimes nodding, sometimes staying silent. But the heartache had become too heavy, the breach too wide. I realized love alone couldn't repair what had been broken, not when honesty had been sacrificed so casually. The divorce was inevitable. We parted with civility, avoiding the drama of accusations, but the wound remained, a deep scar that would never fully fade. I moved into a smaller apartment, filling it with books and music and quiet evenings that reminded me of who I was without her. Months later, I saw Emily across the street, laughing with a man whose presence mirrored mine all too painfully. She caught my gaze and faltered, a flash of regret crossing her face. But I didn't look away. Not this time. I had learned something invaluable in the wreckage of our marriage. Betrayal leaves a mark, yes, but so does courage. Standing up, refusing to be invisible, trusting the truth even when it hurts, those are the acts that define a person. And as I walked away that day, I realized I was finally free. Free from lies, free from pain, free from the illusion that someone who had chosen deception could ever be the person I believed her to be. The truth had burned, yes, but from its ashes I was stronger. I had survived her betrayal, and in that survival I discovered myself.